We're learning as a schus for Ilana Chaya Bas Sarach. We're on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. We're up to 3 lines into the wide lines on Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. V'Shemen Daniel Gazar. We had just quoted that Rav learns from a pasuk that Daniel. We just quoted the pasuk by Yosem Daniel Libai. That we said it was a machlekes of whether that which Daniel was makabel not to eat the mishtoyai, which is shtei mishtoyas, including shemen, was that just he was makabel on himself, or was he geyser and on Gans Klal Yisrael? But we're saying that according to Manda Amar, that says it comes from Daniel, that he was the one who was geyser. Amar Bali, Amira named Bali said Amar Avimi. Noisa. He said b'shem Avimi Noisa, Mishmei de Rav, in b'shem Rav, Pison v'shamnon yenon ubnoisein. These 4 gzeros. Pison is pas, which is bread, v'shamnon and the oil, yenon and the yayin, the wine, ubnoisein, and the daughters of Ovdei Kechavim, kulam mishmoin esed davarhin. They're all from the 18 things that we've come across. I think we first had it in Pesachim, maybe. The 18 things that when Nimnu v'Gamru, when the Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai got together in the attic, and the Talmidim of Beis Shammai were rive over the Beis Hillel, and we accepted the shita of Shammai in those cases. So this is these are 4 of those 18 things that were Nimnu b'shem Beis Shammai. And Beis Shammai was certainly much later than Daniel. Daniel was at the time of the Nevi'im. V'chitema also Daniel gaza v'leikibel v'aso tamidei de Hillel v'Shammai v'gaza v'kibel. And if you'll say Daniel originally wanted to be geyser, but it wasn't accepted, and then it was first put into practice by the Talmidim of Hillel v'Shammai, and then it was accepted. In Cain, my asadusa de Rav. What was Rav bringing from the pasuk of Daniel if it was ineffective? It never went into effect. So clearly, it must have been that there was some outcome of this gzeira of Daniel. Ella Daniel gazalav be'ir. Daniel was geyser on the shemen be'ir because, like we said, in the ear there was more opportunity for chasnus. The problem of shemen is that if Yidden will go buy shemen by the Goyish stores, they'll go meet Goyim there. So that was only relevant in the city. So Daniel said it's only beer, but when you're in the Sada, it's not a problem because there's no one out there. And then Beis Shammai Beis Hillel were only misaken that even besada. Frek the Gemara, Yehuda Hanasiya. So that's the teretz. But the Gemara says the Yehuda Hanasi or Hanasiya. This is not the Yehuda Hanasi of the Tanoim. It's not Rebbe. This is his grandson who was an Anamoira. It doesn't make a difference. We had asked before how could we said that the Yehuda Hanasi we gave a pshat that he was arguing according to the Man Amar, according to Shmuel, the machlekes wasn't about a gzeira. It was a machlekes about whether it's nice and tam lifgam is aser, and he was passing like the Man Amar says it's aser. But we had asked
didn't we say he wasn't?
So I'm sorry, what'd you say? Well, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I thought it was because of the Rav held it Sama Levi L'chol Yisrael Hayra. That's why he was able to do it.
Right, that was what it came. That was what it came down to. about what the machlokes was, whether he taka was geyser. That, I'm saying that's why Shmuel disagreed. But in any case, whether Rav is saying now that the machlokes that it came from Hillel and Shammai, how can in any case so he had problems with Ludoi. In the end, he was chayzer, and he said that there was such a gzera. And I was saying that Daniel did it. Rav said it was against the ear, and the Hillel Shammai came and said it in the Sada. So maybe that was the part that Rav Yehuda Nasi was being chaylik on. But the Gemara asks, how could Rav Yehuda Hanasiya be chaylik on Beis Shammai Beis Hillel? Hechi matzlu mishtakat tamidei Shammai Hillel. But Tanan em bezdin yachal levatel divrei bezdin chaveril and king gadol himenu b'chachmu b'minyan. Certainly, Yehuda Nasiya was later. He was Amoira, and they were Tanoim. How could he be chaylik on Talmidei of Tanoim? V'ayda Amar Rab Barachana Rab Yochanan b'chol yachal levatel bezdin divrei bezdin chaveril. Chutz mishoyim oin asadavish afilu yavel yo bezdina ain't shoymelei. You could always be mevatel an earlier bezdin if you have another bezdin that's greater than them b'midu b'minyan, their stature is such that they're able to do so. But those 18 takanas are an exception to that rule, that even if there is a greater bezdin someday, it can't be mevatel. So even if you would somehow to argue that Yehuda Nasiya was equal to or greater than their bezdin, it's still not able to be mevatel. Amar Mishashia Matam Haylu Pashat Yisura Berav Yisrael. The reason why you can't be mevatel anything that came from Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is because we know that was what they said was spread far and wide in Gans Klal Yisrael. Shemen lepashad isur b'arav Yisrael, but Shemen is an exception. So even though we have this rule that anything that came from those 18 takanas can't be vatal under any circumstances, but there was a reason for that. The reason is because those were spread far and wide and makubal. However, Shemen was an exception. So therefore, Shemen, even though, and it's, as we're going to see, there are two rules. It's not just that it was spread far and wide. There's going to be a second rule as well. But if it satisfies that it wasn't Pashat Yisur B'Rav Yisrael, then another Bezdin can come and dispute it. Damar Shul Barabon Rabbi Yochanan. Yashua Rabbi Seinu Batku al Shemen Shalei Pashat Yisur B'Rav Yisrael. They went and they investigated, and they found that the Isser, the takana against Shemen, did not spread in Klal Yisrael. B'samchu Rabbi Seino divrei B'Shimon Gamliel, and the Chacham was saibach on that of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, val divrei Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok, and Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok as well. Show you Oimrim, ein geyser gzera latziba elim kem roi vatziba yachayim lamed ba. You can't be geyser a gzera on the tzibur unless most people can accept it. So it would sound to this, you would read this normally, that it would sound like this is the explanation, that if it wasn't if it's not Pashat B'Yisrael, that tells us that it's not Yichayil Lamed. But the way the Mefarshim explained is that it's two factors. You need both of those things. In spite of the way I would read the Gemara, they say that it has to have both, that it wasn't Pashat, it wasn't spread out, which I guess is always never going to be possible. If it's a gzera that the tzibur zayin yichayil lamed by, it wouldn't have spread. It can't spread, and also it has to be that they're not able to withstand.
You're saying it's something that happened in the past?
Yeah, that means the Chum geyser in Beis Shammai at the time of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai in Nimnu v'Gamru in the Aliyah, that Shemen of Avoda Zara of Avoda Kechavim is aser because of the problem of chasnus, that we don't want people to hang around. And Lamaisa, they made the Gzera and people didn't listen. So I guess the two things are very closely related. If it doesn't spread, it means the
So
same
you're
Yichel
saying
and Lamed.
this call is not saying a preventive measure. This call is saying that when this happens, then
It,
I mean, is this telling you a call that a preventive measure that they should not be geyser, or it's telling you that
no, no, it's
when they
right,
were
no.
geyser
It's
and
saying when the geyser and it doesn't apply. It's not pashat. It can't be. You can't have not pashat in advance. You
right,
can't know that it's not going to be
and
pashat.
geyser sounds like something more preventive. Don't do this. You're saying it's not really doesn't really mean that. It means it did it and it
Yeah,
didn't work.
right. It means that. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So it means, but you still have to have someone. You still have to someone go and be mevatel the gzera. So Yehuda Anasi went and took in his bezdin, even though they're smaller than Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. But since it has these two factors, they can be mevatel the gzera. I think it's. I'm just talking about this some length because I find it fascinating. It's such an interesting concept that the gzera, the validity of a gzera, can be affected by its acceptance. It's like a grassroots type of situation. So that's going to micro. Has to be where's the pasuk? Well, we know that psukim that the gzera of the chachamim is a deraisa that you have to listen to it, right? That the rabbanon are deraisas essentially. So where do we see that that's not the case in this circumstances? So Gemara says, "The ma'ara atem ne'arim." You have accepted. This is the Rebbe Shalom talking to the Klal. So it says, "B'mara atem naram." You are Ara is a klala. You place the klala upon yourself to do things. V'oisi atem koivim, and then you stole from me by not fulfilling those things that you placed the curse on. That means, let's say, you didn't place the curse on those who will be over avodah Zara. And then afterwards you went and did it, so it's you're defrauding. You made a klal and then you're going against it. Hagoy kulay, Adam Kaivim Hagoy kulay. The entire klal has reversed from what they had originally accepted upon themselves with the klala. So you're saying you're thieves. The Gans, if when Gans Klal Yisrael is thieves by rejecting that which they had accepted. So since I'ika Goy Kulei in, this is where we see that when they accept something upon themselves, and Ba'aratim Na'ara means you accept with yourself with a curse upon yourselves, but it's only with the Goy Kulei if everyone is Makabel. Goy Kulei in, Eloi Loi. Okay, Gufa. Now we're going to go back to this statement that we had said. Gufa Amar Bali Amar Avimi Naisa Mishmei Rav Pisan Shamim Yenim B'Sein Kulam Mishmei Nasa Davarhein. These four things, bread, oil, wine, and the daughters, are all from the 18 things that were Nimnu V'Gamru by the Talmidei Beisham Beis Hillel that cannot be reversed except for by a greater Bezdin. We said Shemin was an exception, but now we're going to go through what are these things one by one. B'nai Seyin Mahi. What does it mean, B'nai Seyin, which was the last one? Amar Nachma Yitzchak Gazru al B'nai Seyin Nidais Mari Saisa. They were geyser that the daughters of a Ovid Kechavim and Avedes Kechavim is treated as a nida from when she's born. That means there's a iser nida to be bought on it, or to in general there's a b'chla, whatever the isurim of a nida are midarabanan. There'll be metama, I guess tyrus. Ugniva mishmei derav amar kula mishum avodas kechavim gazuban. Gniva b'shem Rav says all of these gzeres were all ultimately a gzera of avodas kechavim. The chiyasar of Acha bar Adam Rav Yitzchak gazru al pisan mishum shaman. They said that the bread is usher because if you allow people to eat the bread of avodas kechavim, you come to eat the oil. So come my Omer the Shemi pass. Why are we more worried about chasness of shemen than worried about chasness of pas? That we say that the pas is only also because you come to eat the shemen. They should each be independent problems of chasnus. El al pisa v'shamim shum yena. The Gemara says no. It's really because the pas and the shemen, both of them, are because of yain. That means we're worried that if you allow them to eat the pas, if you allow yidden to eat the pas and shemen of goyim, they'll come to drink their wine. Val yenon, And what's the problem with yain? And what if it's yayin mavushal? And if it's yayin, so I'm not exactly sure what we're talking about over here, because are we concluding that the Isser of Stam Yenam is because of Chasnus, which is what this seems to be saying. But we say Val Yenam Mishum B'nai Sein, right? We brought a bunch of different pshat, and we said Yain is because of, now we're saying it seems to say Mishum Chasnus. And earlier we had said a totally different reason. We had said Yain is because of Ovid Kechavim. So the Mefarshim talk about this at great length, to talk about the two aspects of the Isser of Yain, of Stam Yenam. But in any case, Val Yenam Mishum B'nai Sein, we're worried that if people will drink wine with Ovid Kechavim, they're going to come to consort with their daughters. And the B'nai Seyan, if one is going to hang around their daughters, it can be aser als davar achar als, which is a reference to avodah zara. So ultimately, the yayin shemen is going to bring to wine, and wine is going to bring to the daughters, hang around with the daughters, and the daughters, the yayin it brings levity, it brings shikras, and that will cause people to be loose with the daughters, and the daughters are worried about avodah zara. Va'al davar achar mishum davar achar, and then finally, there's one other thing that was answered because of a second thing. And the Gemara doesn't explain what it is. The Gemara on the bottom of the Amud will explain what that is. But the Gemara first comes back to the question that probably occurred to you. B'nai Seyin de'raisahi. You're saying B'nai Seyin is because of Yena, because of Avodah Zara, Mishum Davar Achar. B'nai Seyin, the daughters of Avodah Kechavim, l'chayr, it's not a fine thing for a Jew to intermarry. The Chsev Leises Chasim Ba. Torah says you shouldn't marry them. So Gemara deraisa zayinumas aval sharav dekechavim loy. The deraisa only applies to the zayinumas, but the sharav dekechavim, the other than the zayinumas, there's no deraisa. But also in the gazer afilu the sharav dekechavim. With that, so this gzeira is to tell you all of dekechavim are us. The Torah says when your son will turn away from you to follow a non-Jewish woman, the rabbis kol hamasiris is coming to be marba anyone who turns away, not just to the Zayin Umas, but to any Ovid Kechave Mayikalamemer. What do we need this gzeira of the Shemona Esrei gzeiras to include B'nai Seyan? But it's already aser to be mischathim with any Ovid Kechavim, not just the Zayin Umas. Ela deiraisis ishus derechasnus. The deraisa, the isser, is only to marry, which is obviously we're talking about a common law marriage, because marrying Ovid Kechavim is not chal. There's no such thing as being mekadesh and Ovid Kechavim, but it means derechasnus if one accepts upon themselves that they're married. But also inu gozer afilu derechsnus, and the gzeira of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel was to include that one cannot even be mizana, one cannot be ba on Ovid Kechavim. Fact Gemara is nusnam Beis Din shel Shem Gazru. We have a long-standing isser of znus, for even prior to the psukim that told us that there's a isser to be mischasen. The Chsevayim Yehuda Haitzia Vatisaref. Yehuda said about Tamar that when he thought that when she became pregnant from Yehuda, and she had his staff and his simonim, but he didn't know that, so he thought she was mezana, even though they all ask that she wasn't married, she was just a yavam, and it wasn't even a yavam. She was a yavam. There was a third brother, but a yavam is not mechuyev misa. But in any case, that he said that she should be executed for being ba on Ovid Kechavim. I guess he knew where his whole family was, so he knew it must have been Ovid Kechavim. And this whole thing is very strange also, because since when do we darshan? We never saw the Isser being ba on Ovid Kechavim from this story. Now all of a sudden we're making that znus with Ovid Kechavim is also midaraisa from the story of Tamar. It's like very seems very wishy-washy. I don't know what to say, like not concrete. In any case, but that's what the Gemara says. Elo doiraisa ovid kechavim al baal bas Yisrael, the Moshcha Basrei. The Gemara says no, that's different because she was a bas Yisrael who was ba on ovid kechavim. That's what she was accused of. So that maybe that would be the only case that we answer because a woman is more likely to be led astray by a man if she's born. Al Yisrael abal avodas kechavim loy. Maybe Yisrael that's born of his kechavim that would not be us, and that's what Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel had to be geyser. So again, we've narrowed it down. It's not chasnus, and it's not znus of a bas Yisrael that's born of kechavim. It's only znus of a Vedas Yisrael that's born of Vedas Kecham. Also in the Gazer, I feel Yisrael bal Vedas Kecham. We have an answer on that also. We have another story that we're paskening from the story of Pinchas that we just had in last week. That we say that someone who's being born on Aramis, you're allowed to kill him. So tomorrow, what's this? Hey, Ella, the Raisa befarhesio kamais shahay. The Raisa would only be kanoyim paigam by a man who's ba on Avedas kechavim is only the Raisa. But also in a gazer afilu betzina. The Zara is to tell you to add on as well if it's betzina, if it's not in pa. We have a gzeira on that also. Yisrael that's born of Ezgechavim. It's also doesn't make a chilik between Befarhesia and Betzina. And the Chayev Mishum Neska. Rashi says it's a gzeira that it's Ovedes Kechavim. It's treated as Nun is for Nida. And Shin is for Shivcha, Gimel is for Goy, and Aleph is for Eishes Ish. And have all these Isurim will be folded in. There's a Gzeira that all these things are going to be treated as he's over Midrabban. That means it's the way Rashi says it. It's that these are the reasons. That means we're worried that if he's born on Avis Kecham, he's going to come to be born a Nida. If he's born a Isha on Avis Kecham, he'll come to be born a Shivcha Knanis, which is also Midaraisa. And Guy, it doesn't really explain. And the Aleph is for Eisha Sish. He's going to come to be born a Eisha Sish. He takes out the Aleph for Eisha Sish, and he says Al Zaina. He's going to come to be born on a Zaina. So l'chayr, that's talking about a kain. So that would only be relevant for a kain. But in any case, this is the gzeira that the Chashmonaim made that applied even B'tzinah. So ki gazu reis dinish Chashmonai bia aber yichad loy. Until now, the Isser was only a Isser bia. Now this is the famous Isser deraisa of Yichud. I'm sorry, the famous Gzeira of Yichud. Aber Yichud loy. Also in the Gazer afilu Yichud, it's also to be miyachid with a guy. Fact Gemara Yichud nami beis din shel David Gazru. There's also an earlier Gzeira. Amar of Yehuda ba'Isser shel Gazru al Yichud. At that time, David HaMelech was geyser on Yichud. Amri hasam Yichud bas Yisrael. Av Yichud avik kechavim loy. He was geyser just on Yichud of Bas Yisrael, but Yichud of Kechavim was not. He was not geyser. Also in the Gazer afilu Yichud of Kechavim. Fact the Gemara, Yichud of Bas Yisrael deraisehi. How could you say David was geyser on Yichud of Bas Yisrael? But we know that's a deraiser. Now we Yechim Shem Ben Yitzadik. Rem is Yichud min Atayra minayin. Where do we see an Isser Yichud min Atayra for a Bas Yisrael? When the brother of your mother will come to cause you, if someone has a half brother, your brother from your mother will try to get you to be Ovid Avodah Zarah. The whole pasuk is Ki Yasischa Chicha Ben Imecha Ibincha Ibitcha Yeshes Chekecha Reyecha Asher Kenafshecha Baseiser. They'll come over to you in secret. Lema Nelcha V'Navda Lekim Acher Masher Lo Yadata Ata V'Avesech. It comes and he suggests he's trying to be Mesis to follow Avodah Zarah. Now, B'chi Ben A Mesis Ben Av Ein Mesis. Why are we saying that your half brother, who's your mother, you share a mother, he's going to try to get you to be Oved Avodah Zarah, but not a half brother from your father, where you share the same father, not the same mother. Ella ben misyachar emina vein acha misyachar im kol harayis shebetayra. I'm sorry. Vein acha misyachar im kol harayis shebetayra. So we're saying that the only time you'll be together with your brothers, if you're half brothers, is only if you share the same mother. But if you share the same father, you're not going to be allowed into the house because there's going to be a stepmother there, and there's a problem of yichud. So you generally won't be around together with your step brothers, your brother, your half brothers. I'm sorry, I keep saying step brothers. Your half brothers from your mother, those you'll be around, but your half brothers from your father, you are not going to be around because it's going to be an Isser Yichud. Now, it's very strange to me because this is a guy who's going and being Avodah Zarah and he's worried about Yichud. But okay, I guess we'll never have the chance to get to Avodah Zarah. So, Be'ein Acha Misyachad Kol HaRaisha B'Torah, Yichud D'Oraisa, the Eish is Ish. So, Zok Gemara, no. Yichud D'Oraisa, the Eish is Ish. V'asu David Gaza Afil HaYichud D'Pnuya. David was being geyser on the Yichud D'Pnuya. That was only talking about someone who's married, right? His mother is married to his father, or his stepmother is married to his father. David came in with geyser that there's an Issa Yichud even on a Pnuya. Also, Talmidei Beisham Beisil gazer afil Yichud avodas kechavim. That's what Talmidei Beisham Beisil said, that even avodas kechavim is also Yichud. Okay, so that is the final conclusion, that the Gzeira of Beishame and Beis Hillel was to include a Yichud of a Ovid Kechavim. My Amalei Davar Acha Mishum Davar Acha. We said before, the last one after the four, we said that the Yayin and Shem, the Pas and the Shem were because of the Yayin was because of Bnei Sein. Then afterwards we said Val Davar Acha Mishum Davar Acha. What is that referring to? That a child, a boy who's born, he's already becomes tummy with a tumah ziva. In order to keep, since they're going to be tummy, people will know to stay away from them, and then the little boys won't play together and they won't come be nichlal in mishkav zachar. I had a great question that I couldn't figure out the reason for this Zera, and I went to Ravasi. Ravasi Eitzel Reb Yechon, Reb Yechon Eitzel Reb Yana, Reb Yana Eitzel Reb Nasim Ben Amram, Nasim Ben Amram Eitzel Rebbe. Tinik Ovid Kechavim, Ein Masai Metama Bebeziva. When does he become Tameh? Amali Ben Yoima. He said after 1 day old, as soon as he's born. Ukshebasi Eitzel Reb Chia. When I came to Reb Chia, Amali Ben Tesh Shana V'Yoimecha. Reb Chia said, no, it's not when he's born. It's from Tesh Shana V'Yoimecha. Ukshebasi V'Tzeisi Dvarei Lefnei Rebbe. When I said, Reb Chia said that you told me on the day he's born, and Reb Chia said it's after 9 years and 1 day. Amali Hanach Dvarai Va'achos Divrei Reb Chia. Reb Chia is taka right. As we're going to explain, the reason really only applies when a boy is 9 years old, when he becomes Roy Labia. What's the reason? Since he's Roy Labia, so then we have this chash that if boys are hanging around, the goyim will be moishech them into mishkav zachar. So therefore, we make them tamei beziva from that point on, so that people will stay away. Amravina hilkach hatinoikas avedes chacham bat gimel shana v'yayim echad hayil v'ruya labia. Since we said the reason is al ruya labia, tinoikas, a girl becomes royal labia at an earlier age, at 3 years old. So therefore, she is she becomes tamei beziva from 3 years old. Fact the Gemara, hayil v'ruya labia metamanam beziva. Fact Gemara pshitim. Of course, it's partial. We said the reason is royal labia, and we know that a tinoicus is from 3 years old. So I might think that a boy who's 9 years old, in addition to being royal labia, he also has the ability to really befriend someone and cause be meishich the Jewish boy into Isser. But a 3-year-old girl, even though she's royal labia, she doesn't have the ability to draw someone in. Kamash Malon, that's what we have to say, it's us. Mistamach v'alzer Yehuda Nesiya kasvei de Rav Simlai. Yehuda Nesiya was walking, supporting himself on the shoulders of Rav Simlai. Shame, who was a shamish. Amalei Simlai, La'isa Emesh Beis HaMedrash Tarnu Es Hashemen. He said, were you not with us in the Beis HaMedrash when we were matter the Shemen? This is what we quoted in the Mishnah, that Shemen they were matter. Amalei, B'yameinu tater afas apas. He said, once you're being matter the shemen, because you're saying that it's something that's the enek zirish, it's exerish enek tzibur yechelon lamed bohen, so we should also be matter the pas for the same reason. Amaloi im ken karolon besdina sharia. If I'm going to do that, they're going to call me a bezdin that is matter. I'm going to be like the Reb David Cohn of my generation. No one's going to listen to me. The Tanan. Or even though somehow Ramosha managed to get away with it. Because Ramosha asked some things also. He didn't let an Erev in Manhattan, so that kashed him. Tan. Hey, Rabbi Yossi ben Yezer ish tredal ayil katz kamsa dochein. He said that this type of grasshopper, the kamsa, is the ayil, is a kosher grasshopper, it can be eaten. Balmashka beis metvachea dochan, and as well as that the liquids in the part of the Beis Hamikdash where they would shecht animals, that was also tar. The karv lemisa misad, and that someone who touches a mace becomes tameh. Now the Gemara is going to ask that midaraisa, obviously, when you touch a mace, you become tameh. So we're going to all these things are going to get explained one by one. But Karle Yosef Sharia, and because Rabbi Yossi ben Yezer was mata these 3 things, they called him the guy who was matter everything. Yosef Sharia. Amalei Hatam Shar Klasa Ma Shar Chada. Over there they allowed 3 things, and you only allowed 1. Yishar Machada Achriti Akati Tartanhu Tahavin. And even if you add 1 thing, if you say not just Shemen but Pas as well, it's only 2. You have to do 3 in order to be called a bezdin that's matter. Amalei. There's another thing that was matter. Ma'i detnan. Zeh. Okay, you know what? We'll do this tomorrow because this is a nice diversion back into Gittin for those of us who are in the mood for such a thing. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how you feel about it.